Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Minna Kröger. I'm head of the sustainability in Elisa. I will now walk you through briefly first about Elisa and about Elisa sustainability. Then we will jump into the climate topic about climate targets, and we will review the risks and opportunities and levers. How do we manage the climate change risks and opportunities in Elisa in a general level? Unfortunately, this time is not enough me to go into the very detailed level, but I hope you get a good view on how Elisa manages climate risks and opportunities. Elisa, first Elisa in brief. Most of you, I hope, and if not, now you will know that Elisa is a Finnish market leader in telecommunications and in digital services. With the digitalization, we provide solutions for things that are important for people and for sustainability development. During our over 140-year history, we have always been inspired about utilizing new technologies and ways of working. Today, we serve over 2.8 million customers in Finland, in Estonia, and over 100 countries globally. We work daily to improve the customer experience and quality. In 2023, our revenue was 2.2 billion euros, and we employed 5,700 people in more than 20 countries. Sustainability has been integrated into our strategy over a decade, and our mission is a sustainable future through digitalization. Our actions have positive impacts on sustainability development. We support our customers globally in their sustainability efforts. We promote fair and responsible digitalization. We secure people's privacy and a critical infrastructure here in Finland and in Estonia. And we safeguard cybersecurity, for example, through our Security Operations Center. And we also, with our measures, with our business, accelerate the green transition. And one example could be the efficiency in our own, improving the efficiency in our own networks, but also through distributed energy system service that we provide for our corporate and consumer customers. We are working continuously to reduce the negative impact of our own operations. We are committed to UN Global Compact and achieving net zero emissions by 2040. Our work has been recognized by third-party institutes, and we are rated as one of the most sustainable companies in the world. We have set ambitious climate targets. Like said before, the sustainability has been in our strategy over a decade, and the climate has been in the very core of our sustainability work. We have set targets over the years and updated them and updated our ambition accordingly. Here in this view, you can see the kind of the view and performance of our climate until these days. You can also see our climate targets. Our mid-term target is to reduce our own energy consumption, emissions from our own energy consumption, and emissions from our supply chain by 42 by 2030. By 2040, which was already previously said, we are aiming to reach the net zero, which means that we will reduce our own emissions by 2040 by 90% from 21. As you can see from this view, it is quite ambitious, since with our own emissions, own operation emissions, it is a quite small amount from the total. The upstream and the downstream supply chain and the customer activities cover more than 99% of our emissions today. But this level of ambition is required, like we heard in the previous presentation. The regulative requirements are very much focusing on companies to have science-based targets that are aligned with the Paris Agreement. And that is the ambition that we have. We have done, or our sustainability work has always been based on materiality assessment, to understand what are the business impacts, where should we focus. This year, we have updated accordingly our materiality assessment so that it is aligned with the CSRD regulation requirements. And as you can see, the climate change mitigation and climate change adaptations, they are above the threshold. We have impact on climate change mitigations, and we have opportunities in climate change adaptation. It is important to understand what are the risks and opportunities that are related to these impacts and the financial materiality. In general, our risk assessment covers both physical and transitional climate risks. This is kind of the approach that we have had already several years. The risks and opportunities here are in a general level, but it is kind of illustrating to you our thinking and approach. In operations, you need to go into a more detailed level and to get the robust understanding what are the risks and what are kind of the details there. The physical risks are the impacts of climate change that relate to extreme weather conditions, extreme hots or storms, as well as environmental incidents in our supply chain. These might cause disruptions in our own operations, such as power failure or disruption in supply of products, floods in some manufacturing site causing production stoppages or so forth. Transition risks, which I think at the moment are very topical and much of this under discussion, is the risks that relate to the transition to a lower carbon economy. And this might cause and is causing already risks in costs of energy, costs of materials, and also increasing the stakeholder expectations from the ICT industry for the sustainability. You can see here these 3 tabs, 1, 2, and 3. I will go them through a little bit later and explain to you how they link into the levers that we are using in our climate transition plan. This is the climate transition plan where we have kind of utilized the double materiality work, the risks and opportunities, updated our climate risks, and also utilized our own data, but then also utilize third-party expertise and industry averages. The framework shows to you, has kind of a three aspects. It shows to you how big is the investment. It shows to you how complex are the levers, how much work, how much time it would require in order to get there, to kind of implement those levers. And it also shows you what is the impact from the carbon emission point of view. Here the view is cumulative. We have kind of calculated what is the cumulative view until 2030. And then, of course, under this kind of upper level levers, we have the more granular, more robust levers, which are more actionable. If I now go through three of those levers that are important for us for our climate transition. And the one big area is those quick wins, having the low complexity, and those are the kind of the levers which are very much in our hands. We heard in the previous presentation a discussion about the energy efficiency. That is really an essence for us. We have been working for the energy efficiency already several decade, and we have been improving our energy efficiency more than 70% since 2016 and so. And we do every year work for that. But of course, it is also getting harder and harder. But it is something that we are able to do with modernization and with simplification, what we are doing in our networks. The other area here also is the how do we procure the energy, the carbonless energy, the carbon-free energy. And there also the thinking, having kind of the plans in place and thinking about the investments like we have done with the wind PPAs some 2 years ago, and ensuring that way that we have a cost-efficient way to procure renewable energy. The other two areas are linked into the climate targets of suppliers. So once again, a little bit like a transitional area where the levers are really complex, not directly in our hand, will require investments both from us and from the suppliers, but having quite a huge impact on climate. It will require also development for better data transparency. For the climate work, the data transparency in supply chain is really essential. And in my opinion, in a way or another, the CSRD actually helps us also to develop these transparencies into our together with our suppliers. So that is really important area, requires a focus. And why I am showing you this 6 years plan, this cumulative plan with the investments needed and so forth. It is that we all need to understand that when you have time, things are in your hand. But if you don't start to work for these topics early enough, then the options are not that many. You have less options for doing your climate work. And then, of course, one might think that what are the ways to fund these investments? One way, what we have also been using is of course, utilizing the sustainable finance instruments in financing the projects. And there, of course, also you need to kind of ensure that you align with your ambitious targets and deliver the agreed results. To conclude, the sustainability is very much in the core of Elisa operations. Our long-term strategy and commitments, as well as ambitious targets, they have been acknowledged by our key stakeholders. And the work for sustainable future continues with our stakeholders and with our suppliers. Thank you for listening, and this was my part.
Thank you, Minna. Welcome. Take a chair. Thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome.
So let's start with a few questions and get a little bit deeper into some of the topics you mentioned already. And once again, a reminder for everyone who are monitoring the show, so to say, you're also allowed to send the questions in Finnish if that is easier, and I try to translate those as we speak. But let's start with discuss on data centers, because that's kind of a hot topic today. So we all know that data centers are gonna increase the energy need because they need a lot of energy for cooling and with artificial intelligence, the energy need is only going to increase. What is Elisa's approach on data centers' energy need?
Well, our approach in energy need is, of course, focus in energy efficiency. And we have done quite a lot of different kind of investments, for example, for the cooling, so that we are able to utilize, especially the cooling part is important, so that we are able to improve the energy efficiency and so on. Then there is also kind of ways to manage the data in different way, so that actually you don't need to have that much kind of capacity for the data management, so that you are able to optimize the data usage. And I think there Elisa has a really, well, I would say a great track record thinking about the energy efficiency work that we have done in our networks and so forth. So those are the capabilities that needs to be utilized there, and we are using those.
Maybe I take one question from the audience at this point, because you just referred to the networks.
Yes.
So few years back, at least, it was a lot discussed that 5G is consuming a lot of more energy than 4G and so forth. So what are the activities to reduce the energy consumption of new networks?
Very good and important question, because that's kind of what we do, is that we develop the sustainable platform for the society to digitalize and then being able to provide the digital services, so that people, for example, don't need to go to bank anymore. They can do the banking at home. So and then we are kind of reducing the emissions from traveling. What we are doing there is, of course, modernizing the technology. That is a huge and important thing. Modernizing in a sustainable way, of course. Modernizing the technologies, and then getting rid of the kind of the old legacy technology, so that we don't have technologies that are on top of each other, so that we simplify the networks. That, I think, is really, really important work that we are doing. Then what I mentioned is this optimizing our network, kind of the data usage, and how do we optimize the whole system. And that has been really tremendous kind of developments what Elisa experts have been doing there. And that is something that we are also selling through our Elisa Polystar businesses to other telecommunication industries.
What about, you talk a bit about your net zero target, am I correct? Yeah, so, and you also talked about that you have certain activities to get there. Could you still sort of recap that what are the main activities to achieve the net zero target and during which time frame those activities are taking place?
Well, for us, the target, the next target is minus 42 from the level of 21. So that's kind of the North Star here. Of course, the North Star is the net zero in 2040, but the closest one is now that one. And there we have. The view that you saw is kind of an upper level view on the actions that we are doing. It's about in a very kind of small item, but it's about using heat pump, kind of changing to the heat pumps. It's about doing these energy efficiency measures like modernizing the networks. It's about thinking how do we cool the data centers. So it's really kind of these concrete actions that we do in our operations. And it's also about choosing the energy, what we are using, that we are using in, for example, for the electricity, it's carbon-free electricity, and also thinking that, okay, district heating, can we develop that further? Which is a little bit minor thing for us. The bigger things then, if we go to the elephant, what was in the room, what you saw previously, that's the supply chain. And that has required already, and thankfully we have quite good suppliers and kind of active suppliers. That requires, first of all, that we understand what is the baseline. And we have now the baseline developed. We have been calculating the scope 3 emissions from the goods and services quite a long time already, capital goods and so forth. But improving that data quality so that we are in that level that we can actually agree about actions. And it might be, and this is kind of a small example, but it could be this type of actions, like we have the subcontractors who are traveling to our sites here in Finland to agree what type of vehicles they are using in traveling, or how many times they go to the site, and are they able to kind of do things going once rather than going 3 times. So there are a lot of things and developments ongoing, and I think what is now important, we're talking very much about this how it impacts to Elisa and what we do. But I think through these kind of assessments and dialogues with our suppliers and also with our customers, there is also a lot of business opportunities with this. So if we find good ways of kind of optimizing our networks, that's a business opportunity that we can utilize when we have been able to kind of provide that as a service for other telecom operators.
You talked a bit about the requirement you set for your supply chain. Do you think that might also bring some risks? Can it, for example, increase the prices of goods and services you purchase?
I believe that it is possible that in short term it might have an impact on it. But if we think about the supplier who is providing services to customers, there is always a lot of customers. And a lot of customers now today, we also know that our customers are very acknowledged. They require more sustainable services. So I think that it might increase in some cases the prices short term, but longer term it's going to be a business as usual.
Then let's move on and talk a bit about the risks related to climate change. We now focused a lot on activities and the sort of opportunities. If you think about your operations, you are providing sort of a critical infrastructure actually for
we are providing critical
for
infrastructure.
so and we know that the climate change is impacting the critical infrastructure as well. well, you are located in Nordics, and the natural disasters are assessed to be sort of limited compared to the Southern Europe, for example. But have you assessed whether there are any sort of climate change risks which could impact your networks?
Well, basically, maybe the biggest is if we're talking about the physical risks, it's the kind of the extreme weather conditions, the kind of amount of storms, and then kind of the severity of the storms. So the windy days and really strong windy days and almost a kind of a hurricane days. So that type of risks we have identified. And then, of course, sometimes already now we see days when it's raining and it's raining really hard. So then the flooding risk can be kind of a risk in our operations. But then if we think about the heat waves and so with here in north area it's not that big risks. And then I would say like you already kind of in a way hinted, but there is these big operators also, like Google just announced that they are coming to Kajaani and have a data center there, and there are other data centers also here in Finland. So I see that we are in that sense in a good position.
Now I must ask something which is sort of on everyone's table. So when we think about the current geopolitical situation and we know that the cybersecurity threats are sort of there, and with the climate change, it is estimated that the geopolitical tensions at least will not decrease, rather it will drive geopolitics. So how do you sort of assess the cybersecurity risks and do you think that climate change can further drive that? Have you assessed those together?
Well, I'm not an expert of geopolitical risks or so, but definitely as we are a provider of critical infrastructure, the cybersecurity is really in the core of our operations. And whether it's linked to the climate change or not, we really focus on that, and that's really one essence of our operations. And then to your question that is it possible that the climate change will kind of increase the cyber threats? It is possible, of course, when the tensions increase and there are the different groups who want to kind of disrupt the societies. Of course, that is possible.
Then maybe one last question, coming back to where we started on net zero target and talking about everything. How much does this all cost? You've done a massive amount of activities on risk mitigation and risk assessment, and you mentioned that you had this sustainable finance framework. Was it so? So have you assessed whether you will have a sort of additional investment needs during next few years to finance these all activities you just mentioned?
How I see it, it's kind of if we think about business, we want to do long-term business. We want to develop sustainable, and now I'm not just meaning the sustainable from environment point of view, but really sustainable business, profitable business, growth. So if we then identify that climate brings risks that we need to mitigate, and they require investments, I think it's good business to do those actions and do those investments so that we will have this sustainable business in future also, and utilize also the opportunities, because I think there is a lot of opportunities even in changing the business models and so that we are really driving the profitable growth.
Thank you, Minna. I think that was all from my side and from the audience's side. It was really interesting to have few insight into Elisa's business and approach on climate change. So for all of you following our event today, thank you, and I wish you a great evening.